the most recent exhibit at the Community Gallery, tied in art and family history. The exhibit is called African American Voices Past and Present, Told and Untold Stories Celebrated Through Visual Storytelling. This project began in the classroom. Many participants would initially create narratives of certain parts of their family histories, which would inspire their art using mixed media and paints. Some would let their art write their stories. Once finished, these vivid works of informative art found their way to the exhibit, and today, the artists get to tell you all about them.
I am one of the instructors with the African American Voices of the Past and Present. And I've been with the program ever since it started. It started back in 2012. I do the genealogy part of it, whether it's when I say genealogy, we do family history. Dr. Hodges and Leroy is the one that really spearheads the part on the artwork. This time we did Standing on Your Shoulders, so it was sort of where we sort of worked together. If they wanted to do their painting on someone's shoulders they're standing on, some of them did. Some of them decided to go in a whole different direction as far as writing their story. For this one right here, I went into a different direction because of the fact I am into history, or Rutherford County history. I had been around the courthouse and looked around at the different statues and different things at the courthouse. And after looking at that, I felt like the end part that the African Americans had played in the community or in Rutherford County, there wasn't any evidence of it when I first started and when I first wrote this story. I sort of changed a little bit to fit into what Dr. Hodges was doing. And of course now they have the museum up there and we are represented inside, but we're still not represented on the outside. And that's the reason why I chose to do this one. And the title of mine is Turning Back a Moment in History. It's sort of like turning a page back in history. That's the reason why I have this here. And I was talking about my experience of going around looking at the courthouse. And then on this, my painting, you'll see it got the path and footprints engraved in the history of Rutherford County by those gone on before. And when I did this, I was referring to the African Americans, the input that they had into the courthouse and as well as within the community. And I've been doing some research and everything, and I just felt like we just didn't have that representation there. And if my story, it goes in, it talks about how long the courthouse has been there. I think it's around about 1859 or something like that. I may have the date a little off. I felt like with that being there, my ancestors or African Americans had some input into probably building of it, due to the time, because Murfreesboro had, I think, around about 1,200 enslaved people, and I think there were maybe 100 and something that was free. So I've got, you see, this is sort of like a timeline. I just put in this to make it look like back in the day. And of course, this is how the courthouse looked today with the, except for we use multimedia type stuff. We did different things to make this work. I've got used acrylic paint, I've got sand in the footprints, I got cut out papers, and this right here is cloth on her dress and same here. Because that was the thing, we couldn't do just one medium in doing the painting, so I did a group of them, and even the courthouse itself is not a painting. I blew it up and cut it out. But certain parts of it is, this right here is styrofoam, and of course the trees, I got those out of the yard, and then I built that up with some acrylic paint. This is Apple John. I've been around Murfreesboro and Rutherford County all my life, and I remember as a child, Apple John used to come up on the courthouse yard to try to sell apples. He lived out on the Braidable Pike somewhere in one of those communities. And he tried to make a living off of selling apples. But he found out that it wasn't prosperous and everything. But however, people started teasing him and calling him Apple John. I have enjoyed this program, and I hope that people will understand my story as to what I'm trying to depict here.
Oh, I'm really excited about the class. The class began as a research project in genealogy. We were asked to research our ancestry. Doing all of that research with the genealogy, we were asked to write a narrative, which I have here. And my narrative, I said, well, in thinking, I don't know a lot about those 1806 people, but I do know about my immediate family. So when we were asked to do the artistic piece, I chose to write my narrative about the Braxton family. And we began 47 years ago living in a home in St. Louis, Missouri, 4418 Dryden Avenue. We always celebrated holidays and special occasions. We were what you might say an upward, mobile, black neighborhood, and our parents and the parents of the neighborhood always wanted children to be better than they were. They wanted us to go to school. They wanted us to respect one another. One of the activities that we always did as an extended family in our neighborhood, we celebrated Independence Day. So that's what my picture is all about. We have our people here. They're sitting around the table. We had plenty of food. We had a tree that we planted in 1960. And my mother named him Bruce. Bruce the Blue Spruce. And Bruce kind of oversaw everything that happened in the neighborhood as well as our family. He saw graduations, marriages, you name it, he saw it. And he took care of all kinds of birds. And I implanted those birds in his branches. And as he began to grow, I mean, he just became massive. He outgrew the house, basically. And from there, he took care of not only the birds, but he took care of our pets as well. My parents always encouraged us to be the best that we could. And we did. We went to school, did all kinds of things. And in the bottom part of my picture there, I put some of the insignias of some of the things that we became. We became educators, administrators, doctors, nurses. We did a lot of things as the years went by. Also in the picture, I have a replica of a photograph showing my mother, my sister, myself, my niece, and my daughter. And we were taking our mother out for a brunch for Mother's Day. And I like that picture. And in the original picture, it's not here, but in the original picture, you get a chance to see Bruce and how massive he had become. Amazing, amazing his growth, 47 years of growth. And so Bruce moved, he lived, he made a really, really important part of our life special. And we will always remember him, Bruce the Blue Spruce, or as we sometimes called him, the Brush, because that's what his name means.
I had been talking to my wife. She actually been participating here in this particular program for about 5 or 6 years. And this program, from what I was told, that have been going on here at the Patterson Center for about 10 years. This year was the 10th year. And I know that she had been participating in the program for quite some time. And just this year, she kept asking me to come and participate, and finally I decided to come and see what she was doing. The instructors told everybody to make their project reflect, put emphasis on someone who made an impact on your life. And your picture would reflect something about that particular person. My mind began to think about my father, who participated in World War II, and he had 10 children, 5 girls and 5 boys. Then I remember that all 5 of the boys had been in some branch of the service. And it came to my mind that I would highlight my father, and by introducing all of his sons, and my story will reflect the service and stuff that he had given to his country. That was a quote by one of our presidents that came in my mind, John F. Kennedy, that said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Then I thought about it. I said, that's one of the most important things you could, service that you could have given to your country by serving in the military. So I began to gather all these thoughts in my mind, and with the help of the instructor, he helped me to kind of visualize how I was going to put it together. Another reason I chose to do this because we was in the area of Memorial Day celebration, and that basically is about the military, all the things that they done, the sacrifices that they done to honor them. So this is how this developed, and the matter of fact, that gave me the name of this picture, which is Family Legacy of Service. So what I did, this is my father who fought in World War II, and my siblings. 2 of my siblings retired from the Air Force. So what I did is, on this side, I began to get some background portraits to reflect some of the things that they did as being a member of the Air Force. And then 3 of us, we served in the Army. So I did pictures and things that reflect some of the things that goes on in the Army. Now, again, what I did, I tried to range them in ages. These are my oldest 2 brothers, so I centered them around my father. Ernest is the oldest. Richard is the next to the oldest. He's 3rd. My brother, who is 10 months older than me, and then me being the youngest one. And then this how I eventually, put everything together.
Well, I chose a subject that the Daily News Journal had wrote about my dad a few years ago, and it's called Someone You Should Know. And I felt like if I told the story again, that more people would know, but there are quite a few in the community that know my dad because he was a softball coach. And but it was for a community team. We started in 1965 playing softball in Christiana. My dad retired from the armed forces in 1961/62, and we were living in Christiana with my grandparents. So when he came back, he decided we were going to move to Murfreesboro. When my dad decided all this, he decided, well, when I get out of service, which he was in the Navy first for 4 years, and he said he just couldn't handle the water, he couldn't handle the boat, it kept him sick, he decided he'd go into the Army, which was probably a good choice for him. And when he came home, there was not a lot to do in Christiana. What he decided, he and my mom, we're going to get a little team together in Christiana and just have some of the community girls that are our age that we played with give us something to do after school and in the summer. So he decided, how about softball? So he got family, my mother's sisters played, we were out there, and then a lot of the neighborhood ladies that were my mom's age. And we started a team called Christiana Tigerettes. That was right after he retired and we moved to Murfreesboro. But then he decided to bring the team to Murfreesboro. So in 1965, we became an organized team and started playing in a league. And we became Soul Sisters. This is the picture where we had our first reunion since we were organized as a team in 1965. Also, my dad was an excellent cook. So while he was in the armed forces, my dad cooked. And he said, you kept your weapon with you.
when you cooked. It wasn't like you were in the field. My dad served in the Korean War. So he said, while you're out, you're not in a kitchen cooking, you were outside and you were fixing food for all the men that you were serving with. So he said, I kept my weapon with me and I kept my pots with me. But he was an excellent cook, excellent. And I put a few things out here that, now I will tell the truth about this. These are some dishes my daughters cooked. But I didn't have any pictures of my dad's cooking, but I did have a picture of him in the kitchen. So this is my dad in the kitchen when he was cooking, and just, he loved to cook. So we enjoyed going every day after school, because the school bus would put my children and my sister's children off at my dad's house. So he would get the children in, and he knew we had to come pick them up. So we knew we were going to sit at the dining room table, enjoy each other, and have food with my parents. My husband, I want to give him credit, helped me with my picture. Goldie's more of an artist than I am, and I'm appreciative to our teachers, Dr. Hodges and her husband Leroy, and Mary Watkins, because I had no idea what mixed media was, and this is called mixed media. But I'm glad I had a chance to just do something that I love and say something real nice about my dad and my mom. But I just used a picture of him, and I certainly appreciate the service that he gave to our country.
My contribution here is entitled Out of Africa. It's a 30-30 mixed media collage, and I completed it in May of this year. And my reason for calling it Out of Africa, my father, I wrote an article about my father because he was very inspirational to me. And out of that, I thought I can make something to remember him by also. And I decided after I did my ancestry DNA, and I saw that my ethnicity was 88% African, I decided to relate that to my father, thereby coming up with Out of Africa. And when I started to make it, and I thought about Africa and the color that I wanted to use, so I stitched together some material to use the African colors, the red, black, and the green, and the yellow. And then I found a piece of material to represent the United States with the stars, and there's stripes, and it's kind of got a little bit of glitter into it. But the main focus with being Out of Africa, we have here slave ships, representation of slave ships. And of course, the water is very turbulent, as you can see. But this, everybody thinks about the Mayflower coming to the United States in 1620. But there was another ship that came before the Mayflower called the White Lion that came in to the coast from Africa to the coast of Virginia in 1619. Now, I related that to my father's ancestors because on the Mayflower, perhaps the Sneeds, white Sneeds, came into Virginia coast. 1619, the White Lion came in with the Angolans from Africa, from the western coast of Africa here. There was trading going on that the white Sneed family possibly bought the black Sneeds. They were not Sneeds at that time, but they picked up the surname of the white Sneeds. And I do know that there is a connection because my grandmother had kept articles, but also when I did family search from Lucy and Jefferson Sneed extended back, his family extended back to Virginia to the 1600s. Also, there was a ship called the Clotilda. Now, when the Clotilda came to the United States, it was in first part of 1800s, and there was a man in Mobile, Alabama, by the name of Mayer, who had quite a bit of money, and he put up a bet that he could send a ship to Africa to pick up slaves and bring them back to the United States, even though it was prohibited that they do that. But the Clotilda did get into Africa, and it was a fast ship, as I understand from reading. It got to Africa and brought back slaves into the Mobile Bay here. Once my dad's relatives got into Virginia and Alabama, they migrated to Tennessee. And once they got into Tennessee, these are the areas that they lived in. And we'll see that there was some in DeKalb County, and Smithville, of course, is the county seat, but they lived in Liberty. And then in Cannon County, there was Woodbury, Reederville, and Auburntown, and that was where some of them settled. In Wilson County, they were in Greenvale and Canesville, Tennessee. And in Rutherford County, they settled in Milton, which is up near the Wilson County area, and some in Murfreesboro, and then some even on over into Nashville. As you see here, I have some things that still relates to my father. I have a picture of him here in 1964, and I have his actual signature that was on his World War II draft card. And of course, the picture of his wife, my mother, and myself, and their marriage certificate, something that you very seldom see, but I still have the original one, and I've reduced it here. And these are the homes that we lived in. Now, the reason I put the homes on there, because when I wrote the article about him, because of the impression he had upon me as a child and growing up and whatnot, is because it was written as the measure of a man. And the measure of a man is how well he takes care of his family. So when I wrote about my dad, I realized that he started out being a person that would take care of people, because his dad died when he was about 6 years old. So it meant that he didn't get to go to school very long after that, because he had to help his mother. There were 6 of the children when their dad died. But he helped always saw to it that his mother was taken care of, and the grandmother too, because he was with her. And then when he married my mother, of course, and I came along, there was always the time that he took care of her. And he always was the man that worked very hard. And he was we don't think about it. I didn't think about it till someone mentioned it, but he was a self-employed person. And so he was always a man that was constantly working. He would always say, don't bite off more than you can chew. And so that had a lasting impression on me, so much so that it led me to doing Out of Africa, based on my ethnicity on his side.